In the deep, dark forests of Valais, where the trees whispered secrets to the wind and shadows danced with eerie grace, there lurked a chilling legend. It was whispered among the villagers, passed down through generations like a sinister lullaby to keep children from straying too far into the woods. Long ago, before the light of civilization had fully reached the depths of these woods, a curse was said to have been cast upon the land. It was a curse that twisted the souls of men into something primal and savage, something that prowled the night on four legs instead of two. It was the curse of the werewolf. The tale spoke of a time when the moon hung heavy and full in the sky, casting its silvery glow upon the forest below. It was on nights such as these that the cursed ones would feel the transformation begin, their bones contorting and their skin rippling as fur sprouted from every pore. And when the transformation was complete, they would become beasts half man, half wolf, hungry for the taste of flesh and blood. The people of Valais lived in fear of these creatures, knowing that at any moment they could be stalked by something not quite human, something that hungered for their very souls. They spoke of encounters with the creatures, of seeing eyes that glowed like embers in the darkness and hearing the unearthly howls that echoed through the trees. But the true terror came when the werewolves descended upon the villages, their fangs bared and their claws sharp as knives. They would strike without warning, tearing through flesh and bone with a savagery that seemed beyond comprehension. And when the morning light came, the villagers would find nothing but blood-stained earth and torn remnants of what once was. The church spoke of the werewolves as agents of darkness, cursed by the devil himself to roam the earth and spread chaos and despair. They were hunted mercilessly by the Inquisition, their kind deemed too dangerous to be allowed to exist. But for every werewolf that was slain, it seemed that two more would rise in its place, their numbers growing with each passing night. And so, the people of Valais lived in a perpetual state of fear, never knowing when the next attack would come or who among them might be hiding the curse within their own flesh. They watched each other with suspicion, wondering if the person standing beside them might be the next to succumb to the beast within. But amidst the fear and the bloodshed, there were whispers of hope, whispers of a way to break the curse once and for all. Legend spoke of a sacred ritual, a ritual that could only be performed under the light of the full moon, when the power of the curse was at its strongest. It was said that by performing this ritual, the curse could be lifted, and the souls of the afflicted could be freed from their eternal torment. But the ritual came with a price, one that few were willing to pay, for it required a sacrifice, a life offered up to appease the darkness and restore balance to the world. And so, the people of Valais faced a choice to live in fear and uncertainty, or to embrace the darkness and fight back against it, no matter the cost. And as the moon rose high above the treetops, casting its eerie glow upon the forest below, the people of Valais prepared themselves for the battle that lay ahead, for they knew that the werewolves would come, hungry for blood and vengeance, and that only by facing their fears head-on could they hope to survive another night in the land of the cursed. But what fate awaits them in the darkness? Will they succeed in breaking the curse and freeing themselves from the grip of the werewolves, or will they be consumed by the very darkness they seek to vanquish? Only time will tell, as the legend of the werewolves of Valais continues to haunt the land for generations to come. As the people of Valais braced themselves for the impending confrontation with the werewolves, whispers of doubt and uncertainty lingered in the air like a thick fog. Some questioned whether the ancient ritual was merely a myth, a desperate hope born from the depths of despair. Others feared the consequences of dabbling with forces beyond their understanding, wondering if the cure would be worse than the curse itself. Yet, despite their doubts, there were those among them who remained steadfast in their resolve, determined to see the ritual through to its end no matter the cost. They gathered under the light of the full moon, their faces set with grim determination as they prepared to face the creatures that haunted their nightmares. But as they ventured deeper into the heart of the forest, they could sense that they were not alone. Shadows danced among the trees, and the branches seemed to reach out like skeletal fingers grasping for their souls. It was as if the very forest itself was alive with malevolent intent, eager to claim them for its own. With each step they took, the tension in the air grew thicker, until it felt as if they were wading through molasses, every movement weighed down by the weight of their fear. And then, just as they reached the clearing where the ritual was to take place, they heard the sound that chilled them to the bone. A low, guttural growl echoed through the darkness, followed by the unmistakable sound of padded footsteps drawing nearer. The werewolves were coming, drawn by the scent of prey and the promise of bloodshed. And as the moon hung high above them, bathing the forest in its ghostly light, the stage was set for a battle that would decide the fate of Valhalla once and for all. But what awaited them in the darkness? Would they emerge victorious and finally break the curse that had plagued their land for centuries? Or would they be consumed by the very darkness they sought to destroy? Only time would tell, as the people of Valhalla prepared to face their greatest challenge, yet the wrath of the werewolves. As the tension reached its peak and the sound of approaching werewolves grew louder, the group of villagers exchanged nervous glances, their hands tightening around the weapons they had brought with them. Some clutched silver-tipped arrows, while others brandished sharpened stakes, their faces etched with determination and fear. But even as they prepared to face the oncoming horde, a voice from the shadows stopped them in their tracks, a voice that seemed to emanate from the very heart of the forest itself. It spoke with a strange, otherworldly cadence, sending shivers down their spines and causing the hairs on the back of their necks to stand on end. "Foolish mortals," the voice intoned, its words dripping with malice. "Do you truly believe that you can defy the darkness that dwells within these woods? You are but insects crawling upon the forest floor, unaware of the true power that surrounds you." The villagers exchanged nervous glances, uncertain of how to respond to the disembodied voice that taunted them from the shadows. But before they could formulate a reply, a figure emerged from the darkness, a figure cloaked in tattered robes, its face hidden beneath a hooded cowl. It moved with an unnatural grace, gliding across the forest floor with an otherworldly elegance that sent a chill down their spines. And as it drew closer, they could see that its eyes burned with an unholy light, gleaming like twin orbs of fire in the darkness. "Who are you?" one of the villagers demanded, his voice trembling with fear. "What do you want from us?" The figure merely chuckled, a sound that seemed to echo through the trees like the laughter of 1,000 lost souls. "I am but a humble servant of the darkness that dwells within these woods," it replied, its voice echoing with a sinister undertone. "And I have come to offer you a choice that will determine the fate of your pitiful little village." The villagers exchanged wary glances, unsure of whether to trust the mysterious figure before them. But deep down, they knew that they had no other option. They were trapped in a game whose rules they did not understand, and the only way to escape was to play along. "And what choice is that?" one of them asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. The figure's lips curled into a malevolent smile, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth that gleamed in the moonlight. "You can either continue on your futile quest to break the curse that plagues your land," it replied, its voice dripping with sarcasm, "or you can embrace the darkness that surrounds you and join us in our eternal reign of terror." With those words, the figure disappeared back into the shadows, leaving the villagers to ponder the choice that lay before them. And as they stood in the darkness, the sound of approaching footsteps growing ever louder, they knew that whatever decision they made, the consequences would be dire. For the true power of the werewolves of Valhalla lay not in their claws or their fangs, but in the darkness that lurked within their hearts, a darkness that threatened to consume them all. With the ominous choice laid before them and the looming threat of the approaching werewolves, the villagers found themselves caught between the allure of darkness and the flicker of hope that still burned within their hearts. Each of them wrestled with their own fears and desires, unsure of which path to choose in the face of such overwhelming uncertainty. Some were tempted by the promises of power and immortality whispered by the mysterious figure in the shadows. They saw the opportunity to embrace the darkness as a means of survival, a chance to wield the very forces that had terrorized them for so long against their enemies. They were willing to sacrifice everything, their humanity, their morality, even their own souls, if it meant escaping the endless cycle of fear and death that had plagued their lives. Others, however, clung to the fragile hope that had sustained them through countless nights of terror and despair. They saw the ritual as their only chance to break the curse that had enslaved their land for centuries, to free themselves from the grip of the werewolves and reclaim their lost humanity. They were willing to risk everything, their lives, their sanity, even their very souls, if it meant restoring peace to their shattered world. As the debate raged among them, the sound of approaching footsteps grew louder, drawing ever closer with each passing moment. The werewolves were almost upon them, their hunger for blood and vengeance driving them ever onward. And as the villagers looked into each other's eyes, they knew that the time for indecision had come to an end. With a shared sense of determination, they made their choice. Gathering their weapons and steeling their resolve, they prepared to face the oncoming horde of werewolves head-on. They knew that the battle ahead would be unlike any they had ever faced before, that victory was far from guaranteed, and that the cost of failure would be steep. But they also knew that they could not stand idly by while their homes were torn apart and their loved ones slaughtered before their eyes. And so, with the defiant roar that echoed through the forest, they charged into battle, their hearts filled with courage and their minds set on victory. For they knew that no matter what darkness awaited them in the depths of the forest, they would face it together, united in their quest to reclaim their freedom and their humanity. But as the first clash of steel and fur rang out through the night, and the scent of blood and sweat filled the air, they could not shake the feeling that they were being watched, that unseen eyes followed their every move, and that the true battle had only just begun. For the werewolves of Valhalla were not the only creatures lurking in the shadows, and the darkness that surrounded them held secrets far more terrifying than they could ever imagine. As the villagers clashed with the werewolves in a desperate struggle for survival, a sense of unease settled over the forest like a heavy shroud. With each swing of a blade and each roar of fury, the air crackled with tension, as if the very fabric of reality itself was being stretched to its breaking point. But amidst the chaos and bloodshed, a figure watched from the shadows, its eyes gleaming with a cold, calculating intelligence. It had been drawn to the conflict by the scent of battle, its curiosity piqued by the sight of mortals daring to challenge the creatures that lurked within the darkness. As the battle raged on, the figure slipped through the trees with effortless grace, its movements silent and unseen. It moved with purpose, weaving its way through the chaos like a wraith, its gaze fixed upon a single target, the leader of the werewolf pack, a massive beast with eyes that burned with primal fury. With a flick of its wrist, the figure unleashed a bolt of dark energy that streaked through the air like a comet, striking the werewolf leader squarely in the chest. The creature howled in agony as the energy coursed through its veins, sapping its strength and leaving it vulnerable to attack. Seizing the opportunity, the villagers redoubled their efforts, pressing the advantage and driving the werewolves back with renewed ferocity. But even as they fought with all their might, they could sense that something was amiss, that the true threat lay not with the creatures they faced, but with the darkness that lurked just beyond the edge of their vision. And as the figure watched from the shadows, a smile curled upon its lips, revealing rows of gleaming teeth that glinted in the moonlight. For it knew that the true battle had only just begun, and that the fate of Valhalla hung in the balance. But what dark purpose drove the mysterious figure to intervene in the conflict, and what secrets did it hold about the true nature of the curse that plagued the land? Only time would tell. As the villagers fought on against the creatures of the night, their resolve unshaken even in the face of unspeakable horrors. For in the heart of the forest, where the shadows danced and the wind whispered secrets long forgotten, the true battle for the soul of Valhalla was about to begin. As the battle reached its climax, the air crackled with the electricity, and the forest seemed to hold its breath, waiting with bated anticipation for the final outcome. The villagers fought with a ferocity born of desperation, their weapons flashing in the moonlight as they clashed with the werewolves in a deadly dance of death and destruction. But even as the tide of battle turned in their favor, a sense of foreboding lingered in the air, a feeling that they were merely pawns in a much larger game, manipulated by forces beyond their understanding. And then, just as it seemed that victory was within their grasp, the mysterious figure emerged from the shadows once more, its eyes burning with an unholy light that sent shivers down their spines. "You fools," it hissed, its voice dripping with contempt. "Did you truly believe that you could defy the darkness that dwells within these woods? You are nothing but insects, scurrying about in the darkness, unaware of the true power that surrounds you." With a wave of its hand, the figure unleashed a wave of dark energy that washed over the battlefield like a tsunami, engulfing the villagers and werewolves alike in its malevolent embrace. They cried out in agony as the energy consumed them, their forms twisting and contorting as they were consumed by the darkness. But even as they succumbed to its embrace, a glimmer of hope remained, a tiny spark of light that refused to be extinguished. With a final, desperate act of defiance, the villagers rallied together, channeling their remaining strength into a single, unified force of will. And in that moment, the darkness recoiled, its grip loosening as the light pushed back against it with all its might. With a deafening roar that echoed through the forest, the darkness was banished, dissipating into the night like smoke in the wind. As the last vestiges of the curse faded away, the villagers collapsed to the ground, exhausted but victorious. The air was still once more, the only sound the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze. And as they looked around at the shattered remnants of the battlefield, they knew that they had emerged from the darkness stronger than before, that they had faced their fears and triumphed against all odds. For in the end, it was not the darkness that defined them, but the light that burned within their hearts, a light that would guide them through even the darkest of nights, illuminating the path to a brighter future for themselves and their beloved Valle.